Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 897A, and today's date is February 18th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The U.S. Government Recovery Just Went Down the Drain. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I just placed an interview with Harley Schlanger. It is on the YouTube channel X22 Report Spotlight. You can go right over to that channel and take a look, or you can come over to the X22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, you can see it on the right-hand side, or you can go to newssentinel.com. That is the site where I'm streaming in alternative media. All you have to do is scroll down a little bit, look over to your right, you'll see the video there. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, out in Venezuela, things are starting to get really hard for the Venezuelans. We see President Nicolas Maduro. He devalued the currency, and it's starting to look like it's getting more and more difficult for these people to afford things. Right now, gasoline will no longer be cheaper than water for those people in Venezuela. Venezuelan gasoline is going to jump by 6,000%. You heard that right, 6,000%. And we're seeing this spread to many of the countries, the emerging countries. Canada is seeing it, and we're going to see this spread all across Europe, where individuals are going to see inflation, where everything is going to get out of hand. And we're going to see unemployment rise. We're going to see it become very difficult for people to survive. And all these governments right now, they're doing everything they possibly can to keep the illusion alive that everything is fine. Remember we talked about Australia, where they came out and said it was a technical glitch. Unemployment isn't as good as we said. We're looking into it. Well, we've learned that unemployment in Australia is a lot worse than the government is saying. The jobs miracle is kind of gone at this point. Australia reported that not only did total jobs tumble by 7,900, far below the 13,000 plus forecast, what's actually happening right now is that the full-time jobs plunged by 40,600, the biggest monthly plunge since October of 2013. The end result of this sudden and unexpected bounce in unemployment rate from 5.8% to 6% is some 20 basis points above the consensus estimate. And the unemployment rate is continually moving up. And this is what every government is falling back on. They're falling back on the ability to manipulate statistics until they get caught. I mean, we see this here in the United States quite a bit, where right now, almost every statistical piece of information that's coming out of the government is completely fake, phony, and false. Everyone is calling the government out on this at this point. You're trying to tell me that we are seeing all these layoffs, and more layoffs are coming. Thousands upon thousands of people are being laid off. Stores are being closed, and thousands upon thousands of people are being laid off from stores. But the initial jobless claims, they're at 43-year lows. Yes, they start trending up, and now we're seeing that they're being suppressed once again. Now, remember, those people who are working part-times in retail stores, what's very interesting the way the government counts them is when they get a job, it's counted as a full-time job. When they are laid off from their job and they're not working at least 30 hours a week or so, and each state is a little different, and they're not earning a certain dollar amount each week, they're not counted as being laid off. So you could see it's kind of one-sided, and they really don't account for everything at this point. Continuing claims, though, are continually surging up. They're at 7-month highs, and we're seeing more layoffs. American Express, they're announcing more layoffs. The number, not released just yet. Alberni Pacific Division Mill, 100 people. NetApp is laying off 12% of its workforce. Yahoo in California is laying off 300 plus people. And we're going to see more and more of these layoffs that come down the pike here. And what is very interesting about this is that we had all these manufacturing jobs, and most of them are completely gone. They're overseas. Those plants that are closing now, those people are getting jobs either in part-time retail, if they can find any at this point, or they're going into the food service industry. And we've shown graphs many times where manufacturing is declining while food service bartenders are increasing. We've removed about 1.5 million manufacturing jobs, and we added about 1.5 million bartender food service people. Very interesting. But it seems that this is all coming to an end. The surge in bartenders and waiters that kind of saved the government's recovery statistics, because it doesn't matter if you're working full-time, part-time, how much you're making. They're just saying these jobs were added. The rest of the people have fallen off. They're just not looking. Well, the National Retail Association Restaurant Performance Index, the jobs recovery party, is just ended. What we're seeing right now is the Restaurant Performance Index is collapsing. It went from back in 2015, the end of the year of 2015, from 103, it is down to 99.7. Just like we saw back in 2008. It's starting to look like things are falling apart, because how many jobs can you take from manufacturing and move them into the food service sector? At a point, it's going to come to a screeching halt. It's finite. And now we're starting to see things collapse and fall apart very, very quickly. We are seeing the housing recovery. Well, that has come to an end. We're getting more indicators that housing, the bubble, has popped. For the third week in a row, mortgage applications for purchases slid. And even more worrying is the architecture billings. They tumbled into contraction below 50. And we are starting to see that the bubbles in the economy are starting to pop. Everything is starting to fall apart. We looked at all these indicators. We've been looking at all these indicators, and most of these indicators are a lot worse than 2008. And basically what we're doing right now is we're relying on the government with their statistical information and the stock market to convince the world that everything is fine. Actually, this was the case back in 1929, where Europe and everywhere else was completely falling apart. The U.S. was saying, there's no problems here, everything's fine. Oh, those soup lines, those bread lines, don't look at those. Look at the market. All-time highs back then. And then everything came crumbling down. The same thing in 2008, going into 2009. They told us everything was fine, everything's contained. Housing, prices on houses never go down, subprime contained. We're not forecasting any type of recession in the same year that we started the recession. And think about how quickly everything fell apart. One day you woke up and all of a sudden the corporate media and everyone out there is out there going, oh my God, everything's crashing. What's going on here? Oh my God, we're in a recession, going into depression. We had the government saying there's going to be riots on the street. Everyone was worried. They're talking about bailout. I mean, this all happened in a matter of a couple of days. The same thing's going to happen as we approach this incredible collapse that we're going to see. The Philly Fed right now, the employment index, that has plunged by the most since May of 2013. And we are starting to see that a lot of these indicators that we're seeing, everything is declining very, very quickly. We're seeing 6 straight months of contraction, which tells us we are heading into a recession. So a lot of these indicators that we are seeing is showing us that we are either in a recession or we're heading towards a major depression. And that is quite scary. And there's nothing the government at this point that they'll be able to do. Yes, they can still manipulate. Yes, they can try to keep the market up by manipulating it. But this isn't their job. Their job is not to manipulate everything to fool the people. Think about what they're doing at this point. Does this really benefit the people? Well, it might seem so on the surface, because everyone's saying, oh, everything is fine. We're in a recovery. We've recovered. Those who don't think the economy is doing well, they're just lunatics. And then it crashes. And, of course, what happens is they blame this on other foreign groups or other countries or anything else, because they don't want to be blamed for what happened after they told us everything was fine. They did this back in 2008. They blamed it on everyone else. This time, it's going to be so bad, there is no way they're going to be able to create the currency fast enough to prop the system up. And by the way, creating this currency and feeding it to the banks, which then feed it into the stock market, and the Fed purchasing toxic real estate, this doesn't help the everyday person. It doesn't help the everyday person on the street whatsoever. It doesn't help small businesses. It only helps the banks and the elite. Now, Eric Sprott and Craig from TF Metals, they put together a report saying that the collapse of the paper, gold, and silver market may be close at hand. And they went on to say that number of owners per ounce of registered gold goes exponential. Again, to have a properly functioning future exchange, there has to be available supply of metal. However, if we look at the long-term trend of registered gold inventories at the COMEX, something looks painfully wrong over there. Now, from 2001 to 2013, the number of owners per ounce of gold trend line was basically flat, except for a few blips here and there. But something changed in 2013 when the price of gold was taken down from $1,600 to $1,150 in a short period of time. As the amount of registered gold declined, the number of owners per ounce shot up over 100 by the beginning of 2014. Then, the trend line fell and remained flat until the middle of 2015, when all hell broke loose. The owners per ounce of gold shot up to 500 when the registered gold inventories declined to only 74,000 ounces recently. So Craig at TF Metals Report wrote the following: the total COMEX registered gold remains at all-time lows. Though some gold has recently been reclassified from eligible registered as of February 16th deliveries, the total COMEX registered gold vaults still hold just 145,000 ounces, with 3,687 February 16 contracts still open and standing, representing as much as 368,700 ounces of delivery obligations. This is going to be very difficult to do. And we might see that they will be able to fulfill the number of contracts out there. And this whole thing can fall apart. And we know, I think it's coming up in April, where China goes live with their yuan-based gold price fix. So is this going to be a game changer? Most likely, yes. And we're going to have to watch that very, very carefully. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.